Cabin, October the 11th. Thanks for your call to Beulah's. It helped to have that. It was a strange conversation. I felt I was hearing in your voice and in your way of saying it, translated but back, as if into the original, what I'd tried to say in my letter, which was at that moment crossing the continent between us. I don't know if you had that feeling or not once you'd gotten the letter. At first I thought of the work as your work with Flo. Then I thought of it as a work with a capital W, a labor, in which you and Flo shared. Then the labor came to include Sadie and Beulah, and many others also. People or beings I do not know, but without whom my knowledge and I would not exist, whom I call without knowing, the laborers in the core, the divers under the city, those who assume, that is, believe, take on, consent to the labors which include theirs, submitting theirs in Tilliard sense. Those may be also in the farthest futures, in the remotest recesses of the nebulae, of the electrons. This is what I heard coming through from elsewhere, at Bella's, the other night from your end of the line, the thin wire stretched under the desert. Despite the surface noise, and I don't mean just Bella's, the simmering, malicious murmur of gossip and envy, the rustle of cash, the ring of the register and the phone, the treble phone and the alto, ringing at once, the clatter of pennies, dimes, nickels, tongs, pans, shovels, trays, the boom of the jukebox, echoed, magnified, distorted through the small loudspeaker hung over the phone. Bella's, too. Bella's being the nearest, the surface of surfaces, but all the traffic jammed, hung up and scattered in the air we breathe, among other things. A letter has been on my mind for some reason. I believe partly because both my children are gone out of the country, and I feel anxious for them, and many things else are on my mind. You see, I have something for them. I want to convey some things to them that I've never been able to get through. And I've just realized that this exerts a constant pressure on my other thoughts. It is as if under every other thought there is the pressure of this communication, this message that I've never been able to deliver. So this connects with the thoughts I was trying to convey to you. Let me try to show you how. When I wrote you, I was coming not only from the work that you have done, the houses, but from the winter of 1976, 1977. This was the winter after Carla left. It was a very bad time. There was terrific pressure, emotional, moral, sexual pressure. There was the sense that I was wrong, and that I was especially wrong in my family's eyes, not for the first time. But everybody to whom I went for solace took Carla's side, even Beulah. There were many long, wild, sometimes hilarious talks with her, in which she tried to persuade me to give up writing, to get a job and find my way, quote, back to Carla, at any cost, or failing that, to at least start writing mysteries or westerns or something people would pay for. I drove my fist through the wall one night, beside the pillow. It was only 10 days ago, 10 years later, after I'd cut the new window, that I finally mended that broken place in the east wall, next to my pillow. Well, one night in January, 77, in the dead of winter, snow coming down, way below freezing, I turned on the little battery TV which Carla had bought for us, and watched the last program on PBS of Bronowski's The Ascent of Man series. The last word of the title and of the series itself no longer quite works for me, nor would it for him, I think, if he were writing today. During his lifetime, though, and even within my own, man was widely used by men and women alike as generic for all of us. I can still see him during the last couple of minutes of the program. He is standing in a clearing at the point where he began the series, in a forest in a river valley in East Africa. As he speaks the last words, his image grows smaller until it is almost lost in the forest beneath us. I do not know what else I believe, Bob, but I believe the words he said then, because without them I might not have made my way through to this moment, and my life would have no meaning. And it was meaning he was after. Maybe you remember them. Maybe we've talked about this. He said that the day they started filming the series, there had been an accident. The plane took off from the landing strip and was destroyed. The pilot, camera, and sound men managed to crawl out in time. As it was, they were barely scratched, but it might have been different. Bronowski went to the cameraman, offered to replace him for the air part of the shooting. He declined, saying that he'd thought about it, that he knew he'd experienced some fear, but he wanted to go ahead with it. It's what I have to do. As Bronowski talked about this, the camera went from a close-up of his face to full figure, to his image growing smaller on the screen, to a shot from the air of a tiny human figure in the surrounding forest, which enveloped and engulfed him, until only his voice was left speaking. And then nothing. And as he spoke, and in the resonant silence that he left, as the snow fell silently across the tall, dark windows, I remembered that he was no longer alive. Bronowski had died a few months after the last take, before the program was aired. Now Bronowski's face radiated awareness, as did his voice, which was quietly vibrant, resonant with thought, charged with emotion at the close of the series. These were his last words to me. Strange, I keep thinking of a poem I wrote this year about Dad, and the words I've just written echo a part of it. This is what he said about the cameraman's decision, and about Bronowski's book, and his work, and all our work, and of that work we share. These words have helped to power me, just as your houses have, and your friendship. We are all afraid for our confidence, for the future, for the world. That is the nature of the human imagination. Yet every man, every civilization has gone forward because of its engagement with what it has set itself to do. The personal commitment of a man to his skill, the intellectual commitment, and the emotional commitment, working together as one, have made the ascent of man. You see, it was the cameraman who shot the last take from the air. On the last page of the book made from the series, opposite Bronowski's words, which I've just copied, there is Blake's drawing from the frontispiece to his book, Songs of Experience. It is of two figures, one of whom is a mature adult, resolute and joyous, an Albion. The other is a winged child, on his shoulders. As I wrote this just now, a memory volunteered. Carla's blue VW giving out on I-81 one night during a snowstorm. Eva was 3 years old. Carla had a late supper waiting for us, but there we were, 60 miles from the cabin above Withville, out on the deserted interstate. We were lucky. We caught a ride with some people from Saltville who dropped us off at the Henniger's cattle guard. I put her on my shoulders and carried her over Jack's pasture, up the mountain through the storm. It was all white around us, snowdark, dark and light together, untouched and trackless. Oh God, how I wish I could do that now.